Yeah, we are now fourth in the series. We'll be taking up the session on reservoir sedimentation and how to estimate the life of the reservoir. In the previous classes, we have seen about the mass curve, analysis of mass curve, and usage of mass curve for estimating the capacity of a reservoir, also to find the design yield from a reservoir. In today's class, we look at the sedimentation in the reservoir. As we have been indicating from the first class, sedimentation is a very big problem. How this is a problem? Because the soil particles, the silt, the clay, which is coming, which is being carried along the flow of water, gets settled in the reservoir. If this is getting settled in the reservoir, the effective capacity of the reservoir will be reduced. Since there is a reduction in the capacity of the reservoir, at some point of time, we say that the reservoir becomes useless because all the effective volume or the capacity of the reservoir is filled with silt or clay sediment rather than water. So this becomes useless. So there is no life for the reservoir. In today's class, basically we try to look at these two aspects about the sedimentation of the reservoir and to estimate the life of the reservoir. We use a word trap efficiency. So you can see here in this picture that all the sediment gets deposited, and this picture provides you some details about the deposition of the sediment after the flow has been receded in the river. So to just give a brief overview about this sediment, floods in a river carries huge quantity of sediment. Why this is happening? This is happening because of erosion. So when the water is flowing with higher velocities, maybe in the catchment area, the silt particles gets lifted up due to the tractive forces, and they will be in suspension. They move along with the flow of water. So this erosion takes place in the catchment area, also in the river channel also. In the river channel means maybe at the sides and bed of the channel. So this sediment, it finds its way into the reservoir, and huge amount of the sediment gets trapped in the reservoir. So because there is a sedimentation into the reservoir, the storage capacity will be reduced. Ultimately, the sediment deposition makes the reservoir useless. So in determining the useful life of a reservoir, one has to understand the sedimentation process and the measure of sediment trapped in the reservoir. How much sediment it is deposited and what frequency it is getting deposited. Based on that, we will be able to estimate the useful life of the reservoir. Here is a small video depicting the clear picture of how the sediment deposition, flow of sediment takes place.
Action at the beach. We observed several different processes and structures forming. Visible at the water surface is a structure called standing waves. These indicate an upper flow regime in the stream. The shape of the standing waves reflect the shape of the stream bed, shown in the top right window. Standing waves are not static features. They can move with and against the flow of the stream. Here we can see the stream flowing around a curve. On the innermost side, the flow is slow and sediment is deposited. On the outermost side, the opposite is true. This This causes the bank of the stream to collapse as the faster flow erodes sediment from the bottom, causing instability, and the top of the bank slips into the channel. If the energy level of the stream were to decrease, it would begin to form lower flow regime structures, such as dune migration. These are caused when sediment is eroded from the stoss side of the dune, deposited onto the lea. Here we can see 2 point bars at different stages of formation. These form when an object gets stuck in the stream, represented by these 2 pebbles. Immediately behind the pebbles, there is a drop in energy, causing the deposition of sediment. The top pebble shows a well-formed point bar, and the lower one during its formation.
Okay, so in this video, you must have noticed that how the sand, silt, clay particles are getting detached from its original position because of the flow of water, and how they are getting moved along with the flow of water, and at a later point of where the velocity is receding, getting deposited. So this is what exactly the sedimentation is. In the context of a river flow, so this sedimentation may be taking place not only from the river bed and channel, but also it is coming from the entire basin, entire catchment of the river. Because wherever the velocity of the flow of water is high, the silt particles gets detached and moves along with the flow of water and joins at a place where the velocity is less. That means it gets deposited. This is what is called silt deposition or sedimentation. So in this figure, you can observe here that the flow is taking place in this direction because there is a dam constructed here. All the water gets stored. During the flow process of storing of this water, and the bottom portion, you can see here dense sediment is getting stored here, and next layer you have the sediment which is in suspension. Then this is relatively a clear water. So this is how the sedimentation would be taking place. So you can't avoid this. Sedimentation in a river is a continuous phenomena, and it is inevitable to have this sedimentation for any of the reservoirs created by constructing a dam from a natural course. So the problem of concern is the rapidity of sedimentation, how rapid it is. More and more sedimentation is taking place, the useful life of the reservoir comes down faster because most of the volume, the capacity of the reservoir gets filled with the silt. So how fast it is, how rapid it is the main thing. So usefulness of the reservoir is seriously impaired or destroyed. A dam on a stream channel changes the hydraulic characteristics of the flow and the sediment transport capacity. In the process of adjustment to the equilibrium for the flow conditions, aggradation and degradation both will be taking place. So why it should get to equilibrium? Because there is a river and the flow is taking place. It's a natural process, and there is an obstruction in the form of a dam. Since a dam is constructed, the reservoir is formed, the flow is getting obstructed. Since the flow is getting obstructed, it always tries to adjust to the equilibrium condition. So to adjust to this equilibrium condition, there will be deposition, aggradation, and degradation, scouring. Both will be taking place to see that it is coming back to the neutral or equilibrium condition. Few definitions related to this reservoir sedimentation. Normal erosion. This is the word which is used. Normal erosion is the erosion of the land in the natural environment undisturbed by any human activity. You don't have constructed any dam, or you have not formed any reservoir, etc. So in its natural course in a stream or a river, because there is a flow of water with a certain velocity, whatever erosion that is taking place in the land, in the natural environment without any disturbance from the human activity, is the normal erosion. So it includes the process of weathering, sometimes, and also the removal of material by the action of gravity, by wind, by water, by ice, etc. So water is the most widespread agent of erosion and accounts for the bulk of sediment transported to the reservoirs. Water erosion may be usually of two types: sheet erosion, channel erosion. Sheet erosion, channel erosion. Sheet erosion is a detachment of the material from the land surface by the rain drops impact and its subsequent removal by the pre-channel or overland flow. So in the figure, you may observe that the silt particles are moving because there is complete detachment of the material from the land surface. Why it is happening? Because there is a huge amount of rain which is coming, which is creating impact on the land surface. Because there is impact from the rain drops, the soil particles are getting detached and moving from its original position. This is the sheet erosion. On the other side, channel erosion. So this figure provides you the channel erosion. This is the removal of the material and the transport of the material by a very concentrated flow. So the rate of channel erosion depends upon the hydraulic characteristics of the flow and the inherent erodibility of the channel material. So if the material is of non-sticky or non-cohesive material, it tries to move faster, move away, it gets detached from its original position. So the total amount of sheet erosion and the channel erosion in a watershed is known as grass erosion. It is the sum of both sheet erosion and channel erosion. So the total amount of eroded material which moves from its source to a downstream control point, such as a reservoir, is called the sediment yield. We are concentrating on this point, sediment yield. What is the amount of the material which is eroded from its position, from its source, and reaching to a reservoir? That is the yield, sediment yield. So the sediment yield for a given area, it varies considerably with the size of the contributing drainage area or the catchment area. More the catchment area, naturally, more will be the sediment yield. The sediment yield per unit drainage area is called sediment production rate, usually expressed in tons per square kilometer per year. In 1 year, in 1 square kilometer, how many tons of sediment would be joining into the reservoir is the sediment yield. So the meaning of drainage area here refers to the total area which is contributing for the flow of water into the reservoir. In other words, we say it is the basin or catchment which gives water to the reservoir. The ratio of sediment yield to the grass erosion in a watershed is called sediment delivery ratio. Sediment yield to grass erosion. So grass erosion, all the eroded material may not be directly reaching to the reservoir, because at some other upper reaches of the reservoir there may be lesser velocities in the streams. So because there is a less velocity, the sediment must have been deposited there itself. So the ratio of sediment yield to the grass erosion is called the sediment delivery ratio. This is expressed as a percentage of incoming sediment which is retained in the reservoir. So as we understand, basically sediment may be consisting of silt, clay. For higher velocities, sand particles also may be there. So the sediment may be some of the trapped portion untransported out of the reservoir. There will be two parts in it. So when you consider a reservoir, the water which is coming here into the reservoir brings the sediment. Because the velocity is reduced, the sediment will be trapped into the reservoir or deposited into the reservoir. But what happens later? Later, the water which is available in the reservoir will be drawn for various purposes. This will be drawn for various purposes. So when this water is drawn for various purposes, maybe for power generation to a power canal, maybe for irrigation into a main canal, maybe for domestic water, sometimes maybe through outlet to the downstream portion to meet the tail end requirements. So in all these parts of the discharge of water from the reservoir, a portion of this sediment also moves, which will be transported along with the flow of water which is moving away from moving out from the reservoir. It is called outflow from reservoir. So some portion of the sediment will be moved away from the reservoir. Some portion of the sediment will be trapped in the reservoir. So sum of these two will be the total sediment. So the bulk of the sediment transported into a reservoir is fine grained, usually in silt and clay range. A portion is trapped and retained in the reservoir. The balance will be transported and carried out by the outflow or the water drawn from the reservoir. So you have, in a nutshell, silt, clay, maximum sand particles gets deposited, and there will be a portion which gets deposited into the reservoir, a portion which moves out of the reservoir for various purposes when the water is drawn. The ability of a reservoir to trap and retain this sediment is called the trap efficiency. Trap efficiency. How much is the sediment which is getting trapped into the reservoir with respect to how much is the sediment which is coming into the reservoir. So the incoming sediment, all that incoming sediment may not be getting trapped in the reservoir because some amount is moving out through the outflow, and hence the trap efficiency is the ability of a reservoir to trap and retain the sediment. This is usually expressed as a percentage of incoming sediment which is retained in the reservoir. Usually this will be taken for 1 year. So for 1 year, how much is the sediment which is coming into the reservoir, how much is the sediment which is available, which is trapped in the reservoir. The ratio of both is the trap efficiency. The amount of sediment load in a reservoir depends on various factors. For example, if we take the entire catchment area, so how the catchment area is, so what is the soil, what are the soil characteristics of the catchment, what is the nature, what is the topography, and what is the vegetal cover. If any vegetation is there on the catchment area, naturally it will obstruct the movement of this sediment load. Then what is the intensity of rainfall also? This the fourth parameter, the intensity of the rainfall directly affects the movement of the sediment. More intensity is there for the rainfall because of these droplets which are directly creating the impact on the catchment or on the drainage area. The silt particles will try to move away from its position, gets detached from the original position. So this also will have the impact. So it depends basically on 4 parameters: nature of the soil in the catchment, topography of the catchment, and vegetation cover, and intensity of the rainfall. So the sediment load transported by a river is classified like suspended load, bed load. Suspended load means it is that part of the sediment that is kept in suspension by the vertical component of eddies formed due to the friction of the flowing water against the bed. We have already seen in the previous picture that there are 2 parts where the sediment is directly trapped and it has taken its position, and some upper layer there is some sediment which is directly in suspension. So that is called the suspended load, and bed load is that part of sediment that moves in contact with the bed of the river. So the quantity of bed load is about 10 to 15% of the total suspended load. Suspended load is more because it will have a movement. It will have a movement. When the velocity of flow reduces at the reservoir, coarser particles settle down in the head reaches of the reservoir, while the finer particles remain in suspension for sufficient time till they settle down just upstream of the dam. So when a reservoir is formed, naturally the water comes to standstill position. So the velocity of flow of water in the reservoir will be almost 0. So when there is a reduction in the velocity, naturally the coarser particles will try to settle down. They try to settle down. Whereas these final particles, they will be in suspension only for more time. So the reservoir sedimentation is measured in terms of trap efficiency, which is the ratio of annual sediment trapped in the reservoir to the annual sediment inflow into the reservoir, as we already said. So the trap efficiency is a function of capacity inflow ratio of the reservoir and is plotted on a semi-log graph sheet. So you'll be getting an envelope curve. These curves are called envelope curves, which are drawn taking the sediment trapped on the y-axis and capacity inflow ratio on the x-axis on a semi-log sheet. Then you'll be getting this trap efficiency curve, or also called the envelope curves. The trap efficiency of a reservoir basically depends on sediment characteristics and rate of flow of water, higher velocities, lower velocities, and so on. So data on sediment depends upon data on sediment deposit in a reservoir indicates a great variation in respect of grain size distribution of the particles. As the stream flow enters a reservoir, the cross-sectional area of a flow normally increases at the beginning of the reservoir. Because it is entering into the reservoir at the beginning, the cross-section area becomes more. This will result in reduction in the velocity. So increase in cross-section area will reduce the velocity. As we know, under a constant discharge condition, Q is equal to A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. There will be a reduction in velocity with the increase in cross-sectional area. So this will decrease the sediment transport capacity. Because it is trying to settle down there, it will decrease the transport capacity. So the coarse grained particles are dropped near the head of the backwater, while the fine grained stream is in suspension, either deposited in the reservoir or it would be carried from outflow of water. So what are the various factors they influence this trap efficiency? One of the important factor is operation of a reservoir. How the reservoir is operated. What do you mean by this operation of a reservoir? When the water is joining into the reservoir and the water is getting stored into the reservoir, how this water will be utilized? What is the schedule of utilization of this water for various purposes? This is the operation. This is the operation. So how this is being operated? How many canals are there? Is there any power requirement? Power generation is there? And is there any downstream water requirement is there? What is the schedule? How it should be operated? How the water should be let off or drawn from the reservoir to meet various requirements? Is the operation of a reservoir. This is going to be a very controlling factor in respect of the detention storage. So a storage reservoir for irrigation or water supply may retain water for long periods, resulting in nearly complete deposition. The suspended particles which are available at the relatively higher zones in a reservoir, if they are to sit, if the water is to be stored there for longer period, these suspended particles also will try to settle down in the reservoir bed. A flood controlled reservoir, if you take, it will empty in a matter of few days. So there will be very partial deposition of the incoming sediment load. This is how operation of reservoir affects this trap efficiency. So if the reservoir is operated as and when the water is joining into the reservoir, the same water is letting off for various purposes, naturally the deposition will be less. The deposition will be less. But in cases where the reservoir is meant only for storage, then what will happen? The purpose of that reservoir is to store water and use it as and when required, like maybe water supply, maybe for irrigation and so on. So longer period, the water has to be stored in the reservoir. In such case, the small suspended particles which are in suspension relatively at a higher zone will try to settle down there. So bottom outlets are more effective in removing the sediment, whereas greater concentration occurs in the lower portion of the basin. What is this outlet? Outlet, as we have been indicating, that flow of water which is coming out from the reservoir. So if these outlets are provided at the bottommost portions of the river of the dam, naturally they try to remove more and more sediment from the reservoir. So to have a relation between the trap efficiency in respect of a storage reservoir, Brun has given a relation in terms of envelope curve. So the one which you have seen in the figure provides you, which is plotted on a semi-log plot, which is known as the envelope curves. So these envelope curves will be having a relation for the trap efficiency with respect to the capacity inflow ratios. So these curves are very useful for estimating the trap efficiency of the storage reservoirs. Joklecker also has given one expression for this enveloping, like y is equal to 0.597 by A to the power 0.24. A is the catchment area for the entire dam set. It is the drainage area. It is the basin area in square kilometers. And Y is the annual silting rate in million cubic meters per 100 square kilometers. Varshney has given these enveloping curves for the Indian conditions. R.S. Varshney has given the enveloping curve for the Indian conditions. So separate curves are given for mountain rivers and those in plains in the northern India and southern India for catchments up to 130 square kilometers and over and above 130 square kilometers. Different categories are given here, like the envelope curves for North India, envelope curves for southern India, envelope curves for less than 130 square kilometers, envelope curves for more than 130 square kilometers. Similarly, for the plain areas and for mountain areas, because all these are the influencing factors for the trap efficiency. So the sediment which is trapped versus the capacity inflow ratio. So a typical envelope curve may be something like this, which provides you the range in between these two. So a median is taken. The central dotted line is the median for the enveloping curve. The trap efficiency is a function of capacity inflow ratio, as we have been indicating. So a small reservoir on a large dam with a low capacity inflow ratio will have a low trap efficiency, while if we take a large reservoir with high capacity inflow ratio, it will trap more silt and the trap efficiency also will be more. To estimate the life of the reservoir, how this trap efficiency will be useful? What do you mean by life of a reservoir? What do you mean by this life of a reservoir? Reservoir will be formed by constructing a dam, as we all know. So when the dam is constructed, the reservoir is formed. As long as the dam sustains, the reservoir will be there. What do you mean by the life of a reservoir separately? The life of the reservoir, there are various instances where though the dam is safe structurally, the reservoir becomes useless. The dam may be safe. There is no problem for the dam at all. For 100 years, 200 years, the dam is safe. But still, the life of the reservoir may not be there. What do you mean by that? The reservoir becomes useless because there is silting which is coming and joining. More and more capacity of the reservoir is completely filled with the silt, with the sediment rather than the water. Then we say that the capacity of the reservoir is useless. And hence the life of the reservoir is over. To allow for silting, certain percentage of the total storage is usually left unutilized. We have seen dead storage in the earlier case also. You can see in the figure the bottommost from the riverbed up to certain level called the dead storage level or minimum pool level. What all the water that is stored is called the dead storage. Over and above that, up to the full reservoir level is the useful storage. So the water which is stored in this dead storage, in fact, that is allowance for the silting. So whenever the sediment is coming, so this part of that storage will be completely filled with the silting. However, with the passage of time, what will happen? The dead storage will be completely filled with the silt, and even the live storage also will be gradually reduced because more and more silting is coming up. So over and above the minimum pool level also, the silt starts getting trapped. Silt starts getting trapped. So it is coming into the space of the useful storage, and useful storage gradually reduces. So the useful life of a reservoir is considered to be terminated when the capacity of the reservoir is reduced to 20% of the design capacity as the reservoir is continuously getting silted up. So initially dead storage is the allowance for silting up. After a few years, entire dead storage portion will be completely filled with the silt. Slowly, it encroaches, the silt is deposition, encroaches into the useful storage. And we say that useful life of the reservoir is over, provided 20% of the design capacity is only available and 80% is completely filled with the reservoir. Various concepts are there about the life of a reservoir. Various concepts are there about the life of a reservoir. The traditional approach in the design of dams is to provide sufficient dead storage to account for about 50 to 100 years of sediment accumulation. So whatever the sediment which is getting accumulated in the reservoir is supposed to get accumulated only in the volume or the capacity provided for the dead storage. However, the sediment settles out at all levels of a reservoir, not just within the deepest portion. Slowly it moves up and encroaches into the useful storage also. So reservoirs are usually designed and operated on the concept of the finite life, which will be ultimately terminated by the sediment accumulation rather than the structural obsolescence. This is what I have been mentioning. The structure may be good and the dam is structurally safe, but still the reservoir becomes useless. The reservoir becomes useless because of more and more sedimentation. The problem confronting the project planners is to estimate the rate of deposition and the period before the sediment will interfere with the useful functioning of a reservoir. The life of a reservoir depends primarily on its storage capacity and the loss caused by the sedimentation into the reservoir. Several concepts are there to define the reservoir life while designing a project for any irrigation project. So what is this design life? It is the time period used while planning a project to assess the economic benefits. Economic evaluations are typically based on a period not exceeding 50 years. Whatever that you are investing on this dam reservoir project, we expect that the entire investment should come back. Maybe in a given span of 50 years, while engineering studies often incorporate a 100-year lifespan for the design. This is the design life. So whatever is the amount that you are investing economically based on the present day net worth, all the amount has to come back. Then the project life, also called the useful life, is the period during which the reservoir can reliably satisfy the purposes for which it was built. The reservoir is built for the purpose of providing water supply. So this supply of water, it has to meet this requirement. It has to satisfy this purpose. When the reservoir can no longer serve its intended use because of the sediment accumulation, then it has reached the end of its life. This is the project life. Third definition is the economic life. It is the period over which the economic benefits are, as we have been indicating, that continued operation of a project is economically justified if the present value of the project benefits exceeds that of the project cost, following the principles of engineering economy. Usable life is a period during which the reservoir may be operated for either its original or a modified purpose, whether such use generates net economic benefits. Whether you are getting a benefit or not, you are trying to use it. That is a usable life. Full life is the period during which reservoir capacity is completely lost because of sedimentation. So what we are now looking at is the total reservoir is lost because of sedimentation is the life of the reservoir. This is what we are concentrating. Now, the life of a reservoir can be estimated making use of trap efficiency curves, area elevation curve, and inflow into the reservoir. These are the three parameters that we are looking at. Trap efficiency curve, already we have seen a graphical representation taken on a semi-log sheet. Then area elevation curve for the reservoir. Whenever a reservoir is formed, for different elevations, what would be the surface area? That is the area elevation curve. Then the inflow into the reservoir may be a variable parameter, which may be taken on an average of 30 years or 40 years of the reservoir life. Sometimes if the data is not available, it will be limited to lesser number of years also. So the simple step-by-step procedure for estimating the life of the reservoir is determine the capacity of the reservoir. Step 1, you need to find the capacity of the reservoir. How do you find the capacity of the reservoir? Based on our mass curve analysis, previous class, mass curve analysis. Then calculate the capacity inflow ratio and obtain the trap efficiency for the full capacity of a reservoir. Then divide this capacity of the reservoir into some intervals, maybe 10 intervals. assuming 10% capacity has been reduced due to sediment deposit. Sometimes you can divide it into some 5 intervals also, like 20% capacity, 20% capacity. Find the trap efficiency for this reduced capacity, 90% of the capacity and the corresponding inflow rate. So from this trap efficiency curve, you will be able to arrive this. Then find the average trap efficiency for the given two intervals, maybe for 100% and 90%, or for 100% and 80%. Take the average trap efficiency. Then determine the sediment inflow rate by taking water sample, drying this sediment, and multiply the annual sediment transported by the average trap efficiency for 10% capacity of the interval. Then convert this sediment deposit into the volume units, maybe hectare, meters, or million cubic meters deposited in 1 year. Divide this volume interval by the sediment deposited in 1 year, so that you will get number of years that will take, that will be required to fill that 10% capacity of the reservoir with sediment. So if you just repeat this, for 80%, 70%, 60%, move up to 20%, then you will be getting the number of years in each of the strips, maybe for 10% volume, maybe for 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and so on. And add all these total number of years, you will be getting what is the total life of the reservoir. So before we take up one problem related to that, we see one slide on sediment control also. How to control this sediment? As we have been indicating, no, it is inevitable. We have to live with the sediment in the reservoir. We can't say that we are constructing a reservoir with no sediment. It is not possible. So reservoir, sediment, both live together. Like a dam and reservoir living together. We need to have a reservoir and the sediment. Then what happens? You always, our idea is that when a dam is constructed and the reservoir is formed, the useful life of the reservoir should be more. This is what our intention is. So to enhance this life of the reservoir, the sediment is to be controlled. How to control this sediment? Proper selection of a reservoir. You need to select a site where the deposition of the silt is minimal. And erosion control in the catchment, adapting the methods of soil conservation such as afforestation. This is a very useful measure in terms of reducing or controlling the sediment into the reservoir. How this can be controlled? Because in the upper reaches in the entire catchment area, instead of letting it free to move in the plain areas with higher velocities, try to see that lot of afforestation is taking place. Because there is a lot of afforestation, the sediment movement will be reduced. However, water flows to the downstream portion. Water flows to the downstream portion, joins the main streams, joins the rivers, finally joins the reservoir. So you are now controlling the sediment. Then control of sediment inflow by use of check dams. On the upper reaches, you can construct small check dams. The purpose of this check dam is to control the silt, or to allow the silt to get deposited, allow the water to flow into the main reservoir. Then control of sediment deposition by the outlets of proper size, location, and operation of the reservoir. So operation of the reservoir, as I indicated, if these outlets are provided with a sufficient size and if they are located at a comfortable position, exact required positions, naturally, in the deepest portions at the dead storage level, whatever is the sediment which is getting deposited always will be flushed off as the water is moving out through these outlets. If this sediment is flushed off to outside, naturally, the sediment yield will be reduced. If the sediment yield is reduced, life of the reservoir will be increased. Then removal of sediment deposited by various hydraulic and mechanical means, a little costly affair. Something like during the non-monsoon period, whatever is the silt which gets deposited, sediment which gets deposited in the reservoir by hydraulic means, it may be by using some dredges, etc. All this silt may be removed. Silt removal can be done by means of the hydraulic methods using dredges. So this is how the sediment can be controlled. If the sediment is controlled, useful life of the reservoir will be increased. If the useful life of the reservoir is increased, naturally you will be getting more, you are deriving more benefits from a given dam reservoir project. So a small problem, the following data gives the relationship between trap efficiency and the capacity inflow ratio. Please try to understand what the terminology, because I'm trying to go a little slow based on the advice of some of our friends, because they're feeling that the terminology is, the terms are new and I'm also going fast. Probably it may be becoming difficult for them to catch up the terms. So I'm trying to go slow. Please look at what are the terms that are used here. Capacity inflow ratio. Capacity inflow ratio. What is capacity? It is the capacity of the reservoir. Inflow may be a variable parameter. So you are not taking capacity inflow ratio. It is given in the problem. And trap efficiency, as we have seen now, percentage of the sediment which is trapped. Okay. So for a table, for this table, for different values of the capacity inflow ratio, the trap efficiency is given. Find the useful life of the reservoir given the capacity of the reservoir initially 40 million cubic meters. M, capital C, capital M also will be used. For your clear understanding, I have just kept an expanded part. 40 million cubic meters is the initial capacity of the reservoir. 40 million cubic meters is the initial capacity of the reservoir. The average annual flood inflow is 80 million cubic meters. So in 1 year, the inflow coming into the reservoir is 80 million cubic meters. Now the doubt is, the capacity is 40 million cubic meters, how it can accommodate 80 million cubic meters in the reservoir? The meaning is that whenever this 80 million cubic meters is not coming in 1 day, it is coming in a period of 1 year, annual. It is coming in a period of 1 year, annual. So in the process, some water will be stored in the reservoir, some water will be let off to the downstream requirements, some water will be let off for various other purposes for which the reservoir is intended. So in 1 year, though the capacity is 40, you will be able to get a total inflow of 80 million cubic meters. And the average annual sediment inflow is 0.2 million cubic meters. Assume that the useful life of the reservoir terminates when 80% of the initial capacity is filled with the sediment. This is by definition. So 80% of the capacity is filled with the sediment. We say that the life of the reservoir is over, exhausted. Now you need to find how many years this reservoir can become useful. How many years this reservoir can be useful. So you can see here the initial capacity of the reservoir is given 40 million cubic meters, MCM. Annual flood inflow is 80 million cubic meters. Then the capacity inflow ratio. Capacity inflow ratio. Capacity by inflow. Capacity is 40. Inflow is 80. 40 by 80, 0.5. Capacity inflow ratio is 0.5. So the calculations are given here. For a reservoir capacity at the beginning, initial capacity is 40 million cubic meters. You are trying to take 20% in 5 steps. Instead of taking 10% interval, 20% interval is taken. So 20% of this 40, 20% of this 40, 8 million cubic meters. 8 million cubic meters is initially filled. That means from 100% to 80%. Then the reservoir capacity will become 40 to 32. Then from 32 to 24, that means 80 to 60%. Then from 60 to 40%, then 40 to 20%. 16 to 8 million cubic meters, 40 to 20%. The moment it reaches up to only 8 million cubic meters is available here, we say that the life of the reservoir is exhausted. Okay, so this is how the second column values are obtained. The second column values are obtained because you have taken 5 intervals with 20%. So from 40 to 32, 32 to 24, 24 to 16, 16 to 8. So correspondingly, the capacity inflow ratio, if you see capacity inflow ratio, the first case, it is 40. So inflow is 80, 40 by 80.5. Then 32 by 80. 80 is the annual flood inflow. 80 is the annual flood inflow. So 32 by 80.4, 24 by 80, 16 by 80, and 8 by 80.1. So capacity inflow ratio, you have got. Corresponding to this capacity inflow ratio, trap efficiency is given in the previous previous slide. So what is that given? Capacity inflow ratio. Correspondingly, the trap efficiency is given. For example, for 0.5, it is 96.2%. For 0.1, it is 87%. Same thing is given here. The trap efficiency is given 96.2%, 0.962, 0.956, 0.95, 0.93, and 0.87. Now, what we are trying to look at is for every 20%, we are taking 20% intervals. Maybe from 100 to 80%, 100 to 80%. That means when you are coming from 40 million cubic meters to 32 million cubic meters, the trap efficiency is changing with the capacity inflow ratio from 0.5 to 0.4, means 0.962 to 0.956. 0.962 to 0.956. So the average of this trap efficiency during this period will be 0.962 plus 0.956 by 2. This is the average trap efficiency. Similarly, for 0.956 to 0.95, this is the average. 0.95 to 0.93, 0.93 to 0.87. So you got now the average trap efficiency during the period from the capacity is getting reduced from 100 to 80%, 80% to 60%, and so on. So you got now the average trap efficiency. Then the number of years required for the sediment to take place during this period with this trap efficiency will be calculated like this. The total number of years required for the sedimentation of 8 million cubic meters. What is this 8? 8 is from 40 to 32, 8 million cubic meters. In reducing the capacity from 40 million cubic meters to 32 million cubic meters is 8 by 0.2 into 0.959 average trap efficiency value. 8 is the capacity which is getting reduced from 40 to 32, 8. 40 to 32, 8. And you are taking 20% of 0.2, then you are getting 41 years. The total number of years required to reduce the capacity by 80% from 40 to 32. 40 to 32 is 41 years. Similarly, from 32 to 24, it is taking 41 years. From 24 to 16, it is taking 42 years. From 16 to 8 years, it is taking 44 years. Finally, 20% only is available. That means 8 million cubic meters is only the capacity of the reservoir available for water. By the time it will be 170 years. So the life of the reservoir in this case is 170 years. 170 years. But life of the dam may be less. Life of the dam may be more also. Life of the dam may be 200, 300. For example, Nagarjuna Sagar, you take life of the reservoir is estimated to be about 300 years. 300 years. But the structural stability of the dam or the structural life of the dam may be more than 300 or less than 300. Also, there is one more problem which is given here in the similar fashion. The following information is available regarding the relation between the trap efficiency and capacity inflow ratio for a reservoir. So the capacity inflow ratio, trap efficiency, same values are given here. Find the probable life of reservoir with the initial reservoir capacity of 30 million cubic meters here. Annual flood inflow is 60 million cubic meters and the average annual sedimentation is 360,000 tons. So assuming the specific weight of the sediment is equal to 11,760 Newton per meter cube, and assume the useful life of the reservoir will terminate when 10% of the initial capacity is filled with the sediment. So in this case, there is a small difference. In earlier cases, as a standard notation, 20%. Now, specifically in the problem, it is mentioned that you take only up to 10%, up to 10%. So accordingly, you need to make the calculations. The sediment inflow is given 360,000 tons. That means 360,000 multiplied by 1000 gives you kg, multiplied by 9.81 gives you the newtons. Then volume of the sediment inflow will be divided by the specific weight. Divided by the specific weight. So weight by specific weight gives you the total volume 0.3 million cubic meters. Initial reservoir capacity is 30 and the annual flood inflow is given 60. So capacity inflow ratio is 0.530 by 60. Then you have to make the calculations. Maybe 20% interval if you take 20% interval, 30 to 24, 24 to 18, 18 to 12 and so on, you got the number of years. You got the number of years. The life of the reservoir here in this case is 85 years. For each of these problems, you need to understand two important things. The first thing is that what is the capacity inflow ratio versus the trap efficiency. Second thing is that to make the calculations for 20% interval or 10% interval, accordingly you'll have the table with the 10 values or you have the table with 5 values. That's all. So in a nutshell, to understand about the today's class, we have seen about what is sedimentation, what are the various characteristics which would be affecting this sedimentation, how to control